Saw Michael's video. Um, long video. I loved it. It's fantastic. Um, he talked about many things. It was very random. I don't really have any comment on where he lives in Glendale because I've never been there, and once upon a time, we had a massage chair, and it was ugly. It was very ugly, and it was nice. I did enjoy sitting in it. If you sat in it too long, though, then it began to hurt. So it was, as with everything, it's a fine line. You got to tune it. Not long enough, it's just not satisfying. Too long, you could get bruises, and that's not fun. But it was horribly ugly, and I hated looking at it. Um, and it wasn't very comfortable to sit in just on its own if you weren't getting a massage, because it had the rollers, so you had to actually be having a massage while you were sitting in it to make it worthwhile. So you couldn't just sit in and watch TV. So then you wouldn't have to look at the chair. Um, yeah, finally got rid of it several years later. I don't miss it. Not at all. Because it was ugly. And I'm just going to ask a few more 70s questions that Michael won't remember next week. How's that? Let's see. How good were you at Pong? And for those who are too young to know what Pong is, it was like the first video game ever. And it was like ping pong. Hence Pong. It was very rudimentary. It was like little white rectangles that you would go on the bottom and hit, and you would play with someone, which, back then we just thought that was that. I mean, we had Pong. We were all about that. So, yeah, we thought we were the cat's meow. What do you remember about the first time you saw Star Wars? I remember we didn't go see it right away, and I ended up going with my neighbors across the street because my parents were terrible at taking us to the movies. So I ended up going with them, and I was just in love immediately. Yeah, I don't have a great story about the first time I saw Star Wars. I just remember loving it immediately, and then hearing not long after that about another one that was coming out. I was like, oh my gosh. So then it was all about Star Wars. And back then, obviously I couldn't drive. So, if you wanted to see it more than once, I remember seeing it with my neighbors across the street, but I don't think I told my parents what I was seeing when we went to the movies. So, I think when I went, because my parents, once you saw the movie, they weren't going to let you see it again. It was like, why bother? Why waste money to go to the movies to see it again? So I would have to lie about whether I saw it or not. And I remember more with Empire Strikes Back, because I saw that 6 times in the theater. I know. I was in love. And I had to be real sneaky about going to see it, and not telling my parents what I saw when I went to the movies. And I would say, I'm going to movies with a friend, and back then they were like, okay, whatever. And if they asked what we saw, it was I don't know, even remember what I would say, but I just remember hiding the fact that I went to see Empire Strikes Back, because had I said I saw it, then I wouldn't be able to go see it again at the theater. So yeah, I had to be sneaky about it. But yeah, 6 times. And I think I only saw Star Wars in the theater, I want to say twice, maybe 3 times. So yeah, I know. But that's what you do when you're a kid in the 70s, I guess. And then this one it's almost impossible to answer this one for me. What are the oldest Saturday Night Live skits you can remember? Well, I started watching it from day one, because I was always a night owl, so I kind of came across it. I don't know, either the first or second episode. I just, I've seen them all so many times now I can't remember, but I do remember watching the very first season when I was a kid, and also being in love with that. I love, skit comedy and characters, and as you know. Uh, but yeah, there were so many good ones. It's hard to even. I mean, I could just go on and on about all the skits back then. The cheeseburger, cheap, cheap, cheap. No Coke, Pepsi. Remember that one? And Gilda Radner was one of my favorites. Rosanna Dana, I loved her. And then I can't remember her name, Mrs. Lubner. I can't remember Gilda's name was Todd, and I can't remember her name. And Todd was Bill Murray. Gilda Radner was something Lubner, and Jane Curtin was Mrs. Lubner. And these were like two nerdy kids, and Todd was always going on about her small boobs were like mosquito bites and stuff, and she was like this big nerd with glasses. Shut up, Todd. She's always congested. I know. If you've never seen the first few seasons of SNL, you should, because they're just, in my opinion, they're classics. Saturday Night Live back then was huge. Inspiration for me in my humor and all that. So yeah, I hold a very dear place for it. And then when the original cast left, I refused to watch. Said I can't watch it anymore. They're all, Of course, that lasted maybe half the next season. I ended up watching some of it. I just had to know how it was going to be, and I hated the new cast. And but I continued to watch. I've continued to watch over the years, through the good years, the bad years. I just, it's just one of those things you just continue to watch. I just can't give up on it. So for all the bad skits, there's always like a good one thrown in there somewhere. So some seasons are better than others, that's for sure. All right, well, I've babbled on long enough. Bye.